Good afternoon, everyone. Let me talk about situation in Central Europe. 1 year ago, we published data from 8 countries about answering the question, how close are we to hepatitis C virus elimination in Central Europe? You see the countries which were involved. We collected the data from these countries, which clearly demonstrated very different prevalence of HCV RNA, with highest rate in Latvia and lowest in Slovakia. On average, it was 0.5% of prevalence, and altogether in these 8 countries, we estimated more than 400,000 people infected, people with active infection of HCV. Of course, the predominant genotype was genotype 1b, with some exception on the second position, but the second place was taken by genotype 3 in almost all countries, which was not surprising. And then I asked my colleagues in this paper to answer the question how close we are to HCV elimination, and which factors could affect this elimination. I remind you, it was 1 year ago, so it was just before COVID-19 it was published. There was generally no financial coverage of therapy problem. So in these countries, there was no financial problems according to scoring system, which was calculated for all countries. There was also no problem in majority of these countries with medical staff capacity and no treatment restriction, except some situation in Slovakia. But the major problem was lack of national screening program. You see almost all countries scored this issue with 1 point or 2, no more. And it was clearly connected with lack of political will and some problems with linkage to care programs. So the question, is HCV elimination realistic by 2030, was answered by several countries. No, it was Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Poland, and Slovakia. However, 3 countries answered yes, elimination is realistic. Such answer was given by Croatia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And Hungarian colleagues were hesitating. They said maybe. And then we got COVID-19. And in the mid of the year, it was end of August, I asked the question to my colleagues, did COVID-19 affect HCV? And it was clear answer in almost all, except Czech Republic, yes. And if you look on the lower row of the table, in each country except Czech Republic and Croatia, there was expectation of decline of number of patients treated for hepatitis C. In 2 countries, in Poland and Slovakia, it was even deeper, below 50% of those patients which were treated in 2019 were expected to be treated in 2020. Altogether, we expected decline of number of treated patients below level from 2016, so from the beginning of the interferon-free era. A good example of reduction of number of treated patients it can be demonstrated in Poland. You see reimbursement reflecting use of 4 major regimens in 2019 and 2020 until October. We have data at this moment from October, the latest, clearly demonstrated reduction of the use of medication for hepatitis C treatment. So my conclusion from this data is there is no financial limitations for access to treatment in Central European region. It's still true. The major barrier is lack of national screening programs and insufficient political will to establish priority for HCV elimination. And even if some countries were optimistic before COVID-19, they experienced a reduction of treatment rate in 2020. The greatest impact of the pandemic on HCV treatment was observed in Poland due to the role of infectious disease staff in managing HCV infections and their current involvement in the fight against COVID-19. So, final conclusion is HCV elimination in Central Europe is not realistic by 2030. Maybe in some countries it can be, they can be closer, but for the whole region is definitely not realistic. Thank you.